My name is Alexander Kane. I was only 20 years old when the love of my life, my wife, passed away 3 months after our wedding. Since then, no other woman has truly crossed my path, at least not for real. Since she's been gone, I repeat the same ritual. I buy the same bouquet on the same day for the same woman who is no longer here. It was on a day when I didn't visit my usual flower shop that I saw a pair of eyes that for an instant made my heart forget it had grown accustomed to living in silence. It's from that moment that everything began to change, and my past decided to knock on the door of my present. But first, I need to tell you about the 24 hours before everything happened. 24 hours before the alarm clock rang at 5:30 a.m. as always. 45 years old, CEO of Kane Industries, net worth of $2.8 billion, and I still wake up with the same nightmare after 25 years. Catherine's face dissolving between my fingers, like sand. "Mr. Kane," Margaret's voice, my housekeeper, echoed through the intercom. "Your coffee is ready." Margaret had worked for me for 15 years and still insisted on formalities. Maybe it was better that way. Distance was safety. I walked down the stairs of my Beverly Hills mansion, my steps echoing on the imported marble. Every surface immaculate, every piece of furniture in the exact place it should be. Order, control, that's how I functioned. "The newspapers are on the table, sir," Margaret said, avoiding eye contact. She knew the rule. No personal conversations. The front page of the Wall Street Journal featured a photo of me leaving a business meeting. "Silicon Valley's Lonely King," read the headline. Lonely, as if it were a choice. "Mr. Kane," my assistant Rebecca called at the exact moment I finished reading. "Mr. Mitchell confirmed the meeting for 10 a.m. and, well, it's Thursday. Ritual day. Cancel everything after 3 p.m., I replied, already knowing where I would go. 3 hours later, I was in the 47th floor conference room, surrounded by men in suits who spoke numbers as if they were poetry. The TechFlow acquisition would be our biggest merger of the year. "The numbers are impressive, Kane," said Robert Mitchell, a 60-year-old man who built his empire on delivery apps. "But you seem distant today." Distant. That word haunted me like a shadow. "Just focused on the details," I lied, leafing through contracts that my legal team had already reviewed 3 times. Actually, I was thinking about white roses. Always white roses. At exactly 3 p.m., I said goodbye to the meeting and drove my Tesla Model S through the streets of Los Angeles. Traffic was chaos, but I knew every shortcut in the city. 25 years of Thursdays had taught me that. The Petals and Dreams flower shop was located in West Hollywood, a small and cozy establishment that contrasted with the skyscrapers where I spent my days. The owner, a lady named Dorothy, had known me for so long that she didn't even need to ask what I wanted. "The usual white roses, Mr. Kane?" she asked with a gentle smile. "The same ones," I confirmed, watching as she prepared the arrangement with the same care as always. 12 white roses, a sprig of eucalyptus, light blue satin ribbon. Exactly how Catherine liked them. "May I ask a personal question?" Dorothy said, tying the ribbon with precision. "In all these years, have you never considered diversifying?" She laughed at her own joke, but I didn't find it funny. Dorothy didn't know the complete story. Nobody did. "Some traditions shouldn't be broken," I replied, paying in cash as always. Rose Hill Cemetery was 20 minutes away. I knew the path with my eyes closed. Main gate, 3rd left, 8 rows down, 5th headstone to the right. Catherine Elizabeth Kane, 1978-1999. Beloved wife, gone too soon. 21 years old. She was only 21 when we married, and the same age when a drunk driver decided our honeymoon would last only 3 months. "Hi, sweetheart," I spoke softly, placing the fresh roses in the marble vase. "Another Thursday. Business is going well, if that interests you. I bought a tech company today. You'd laugh at the apps people invent nowadays." The wind rustled the leaves of the oak tree that shaded the grave. For a moment it almost seemed like she was listening. "I still wake up thinking about you," I continued. "I still wear that cologne you bought on our first date." Pathetic, isn't it? We stayed in silence for an hour. Me and a marble headstone, having the same conversation we'd been having for 25 years. When I returned home, I found Margaret organizing dinner. Grilled salmon, asparagus, wild rice. The same meal every Thursday. "Mr. Kane," she said hesitantly, "I was thinking, maybe it would be good for you to go out more. Meet people. I looked at her with the expression I used in business meetings when someone suggested something absurd. Margaret, in 15 years working here, how many people have you seen me bring home? Well, none, sir. And there's a reason for that. She nodded quickly and returned to the kitchen. Another conversation ended before it began. Before sleeping, I opened my office closet and took out a blue velvet box. Inside, a gold wedding ring that Catherine never had the chance to wear for long. 25 years later, it still shone like the day I bought it. Tomorrow will be different, I murmured to myself, as I did every night. Tomorrow maybe I won't need to come here. But as I closed my eyes, I knew it was a lie. Friday would come and pass, and next Thursday I'd be back at the flower shop, buying white roses for a woman who would never age. What I didn't know was that the different tomorrow I promised myself every night was finally less than 8 hours away. And it would all begin when I decided to break my routine for the first time in 25 years. Friday morning arrived like any other, except for one small detail that would change everything. My Tesla wouldn't start. This is impossible, I muttered, pressing the key fob for the third time. The car that had never failed me in 5 years chose this exact moment to have a malfunction. Mr. Kane? Margaret appeared at the front door, probably hearing my frustrated sighs. Is everything all right? The car won't start. Call my driver. Tell him to come immediately. I'm afraid James called in sick this morning, sir. Something about food poisoning. Perfect. The universe seemed to be conspiring against my perfectly organized routine. I had a board meeting at 9 a.m., lunch with investors at noon, and 3 conference calls in the afternoon. What do you suggest, Margaret? That I walk to downtown L.A.? She hesitated for a moment, then said something that should have been obvious but somehow never occurred to me. Why don't you take the subway, sir? The Metro Red Line has a station just 10 minutes from here. The subway. In 45 years of life, 25 of them as a millionaire, I had never taken public transportation in Los Angeles. The idea seemed as foreign as traveling to Mars. The subway, I repeated, as if she had suggested I ride a unicorn to work. Yes, sir. Many people use it daily. It's quite normal. Normal. Another word that didn't exist in my vocabulary. 30 minutes later, I found myself at the Hollywood Highland Metro station, wearing a $3,000 Armani suit and carrying a leather briefcase that cost more than most people's monthly salary. I felt like an alien trying to blend in with humans. The ticket machine was my first challenge. Touchscreen, multiple options, something called a tap card. A line was forming behind me while I tried to decipher the interface that seemed designed to confuse anyone over 40. Need help? A warm voice asked beside me. I turned and saw her for the first time. 20 years old, maybe 21. Auburn hair that caught the morning light streaming through the station windows. Green eyes that sparkled with genuine kindness, not the calculated interest I was used to receiving from people who knew my net worth. She wore jeans, white sneakers, and a UCLA sweatshirt that had seen better days. Yes, actually, I admitted, feeling surprisingly humble. I've never used this before. She smiled, and something in my chest moved for the first time in 25 years. First time on the Metro? She asked, moving closer to help. It's easier than it looks. Where are you going? Downtown, Union Station area. Perfect. Same direction as me. She pressed a few buttons on the machine with practiced ease. You'll need a day pass. It's $7. $7. I probably spent more than that on coffee every morning without thinking twice. Here, I said, pulling out my wallet and offering her a $100 bill. Keep the change for helping me. Her expression shifted slightly, and I immediately realized my mistake. Her smile became more cautious, almost defensive. Thanks, but I can't break 100, and I don't need a tip for being a decent human being. She said it without malice, but there was a firmness in her voice that I wasn't used to hearing. I felt my face heat up. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's okay, she said, her smile returning, warmer this time. You just need to get some smaller bills. There's an ATM over there. As I walked to the ATM, I couldn't stop thinking about her reaction. When was the last time someone had refused money from me? When was the last time someone had treated me like a regular person? When I returned with proper change, she was reading a textbook that looked heavy enough to be used as a weapon. Pre-med? I asked, handing her the exact $7. Veterinary medicine, actually. Second year at UCLA. She looked up from her book. What about you? Let me guess. Lawyer? Close. Businessman? The suit gave it away, she said with a teasing smile. That, and the fact that you've never been on the metro before. I'm Harper, by the way. Alexander. The train arrived with a mechanical screech, and Harper stood up, gathering her books. Come on, Alexander. Stay close and don't look like a tourist. I don't look like a tourist. She gave me a once-over, taking in my perfect hair, expensive suit, and probably the deer-in-headlights expression on my face. Right. Sure you don't. The train was more crowded than I expected. Harper found us 2 seats together, and I found myself sitting closer to her than I had been to any woman in, well, 25 years. So, what kind of business? She asked, adjusting her backpack on her lap. This was always the tricky part. As soon as people knew who I was, everything changed. The natural conversations ended, replaced by calculated interest or intimidated silence. Technology, software development, not exactly a lie. Kane Industries had several tech subsidiaries. Cool. My brother works in tech. He's always trying to explain coding to me, but it's like he's speaking another language. She laughed, and the sound was infectious. What about you? Do you speak fluent geek? Fluent enough, I said, surprising myself by smiling. But I'm more on the business side these days. Less coding, more meetings. Meetings, she said dramatically, placing a hand over her heart. The death of creativity. You have no idea. For the next 20 minutes, we talked about everything and nothing. She told me about her veterinary studies, her part-time job at an animal clinic in Venice Beach, her shared apartment with 3 roommates. I told her about, well, a carefully edited version of my life. But for the first time in decades, I found myself genuinely curious about another person's world. This is my stop, Harper said as the train pulled into Union Station. But you need to continue to downtown, right? Actually, I said, standing up with her. I just realized I have some errands to run around here first. It was a complete lie. My meeting was in a building literally connected to Union Station. But the idea of ending this conversation felt wrong somehow. Oh, well, if you need directions or anything. She pulled out her phone. I could give you my number. You know, in case you get lost in the big scary city. She was teasing me, but there was something else in her voice. Hope, maybe? I'd like that, I said, pulling out my own phone. Very much. As we exchanged numbers, our fingers touched briefly, and I felt that same strange movement in my chest. Harper, I said as she started to walk away. Thank you. For helping me, I mean. Anytime, Alexander. She gave me one last smile. And next time, bring smaller bills. I watched her walk away until she disappeared into the crowd, then stood there for several minutes trying to understand what had just happened to me. My phone buzzed. Rebecca, my assistant. Mr. Kane, where are you? The board meeting started 10 minutes ago. I looked around Union Station, at the hundreds of people rushing to catch trains, to start their days, to live their normal lives. For 25 years, I had been above all this, insulated in my world of luxury cars and private meetings. Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes, I said, heading toward the elevator that would take me to my meeting. But as I rode up to the 32nd floor, all I could think about was auburn hair and green eyes, and the way Harper had said my name like it was just a name. Not a fortune, not a company, not a reputation, just Alexander. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I left the office early. Not for the cemetery, not for business, just because I wanted to. I took the metro home, hoping against hope that I might see Harper again. She wasn't there, of course. But for the first time in 25 years, Thursday's ritual felt like it belonged to the past, and Friday felt like the beginning of something entirely new. Saturday morning brought something I hadn't experienced in decades, indecision about what to do with my free time. For 25 years, my weekends followed the same pattern. Saturday, gym at 7 a.m., breakfast while reading financial reports, golf at the country club with business associates who were more competitors than friends. Sunday, more reports, conference calls with international partners, meal prep planning with Margaret. But today, I found myself staring at my phone, looking at Harper's contact information. Harper, Metro Girl. I had added that subtitle without thinking, but now it seemed ridiculous. What was I? 15 years old. Mr. Kane, Margaret appeared in my office doorway. Your golf partner's called to confirm the tee time at 10 a.m. Golf. with Harrison Bradley and Marcus Webb, two men who spent 4 hours discussing stock portfolios while pretending to enjoy each other's company. "Cancel it," I said, surprising both Margaret and myself. "Cancel golf, sir?" "Yes. Tell them something came up." Margaret looked like I had announced my intention to join a circus. In 15 years, I had never canceled golf. It was as much a part of my Saturday routine as breathing. After she left, I continued staring at my phone. What exactly was I supposed to text Harper? "Hi, it's Alexander from the train. Want to grab coffee?" Did people my age still ask people her age for coffee? Was that weird? My phone buzzed, solving my dilemma. Harper. "Hey Alexander, hope you found your way around downtown okay yesterday. How's your weekend going?" She had texted me first. The relief I felt was probably disproportionate to the situation, but I didn't care. Alexander. "Hi Harper. Weekend's going well, thanks. Just canceled my golf game, actually." Harper. "Golf? Let me guess. You're one of those businessmen who talks deals while walking around hitting a little white ball?" I laughed out loud, alone in my office. She had described my golf games with surgical precision. Alexander. "Guilty as charged. What about you? Any exciting Saturday plans?" Harper. "Working at the animal clinic until 3, then studying. Living the dream, basically." Animal clinic. I had forgotten she mentioned working with animals. An idea formed in my mind. Probably a terrible idea, but I found myself typing before I could stop myself. Alexander. "This might sound strange, but I've never been to a veterinary clinic. Would you mind if I stop by sometime? I'm curious about what you do." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I held my breath. Harper. "Really? That's actually kind of sweet. Are you thinking about getting a pet?" Was I? The thought had never crossed my mind. My mansion felt more like a museum than a home. No pets, barely any personal touches. Everything pristine and lifeless. Alexander. "Maybe. I live alone and the house feels pretty empty sometimes." Harper. "Oh, that's sad. Everyone needs a furry friend. The clinic is in Venice Beach. Seaside Animal Care on Ocean Front Walk. I'll be there until 3 if you want to stop by. Venice Beach." I couldn't remember the last time I had been to Venice Beach. It was only 30 minutes from Beverly Hills, but it might as well have been another planet. Alexander. "I'll see you there." 2 hours later, I found myself in a part of Los Angeles I had successfully avoided for decades. Venice Beach was everything Beverly Hills wasn't. Chaotic, colorful, loud, and completely unpredictable. Street performers, artists, musicians, tourists, and locals all mixed together in a way that would have given my security team nightmares. I parked my Tesla between a beat-up van covered in surfing stickers and a motorcycle that looked older than Harper. The contrast was not lost on me. Seaside Animal Care was a small, cheerful building with painted murals of dogs and cats on the exterior walls. Through the windows, I could see Harper in scrubs, gentle handling a small dog while talking to its owner. I stood outside for several minutes watching her work. She moved with confidence and compassion, her face lighting up as she explained something to the worried pet owner. This was clearly where she belonged. The bell above the door chimed as I entered, and Harper looked up with surprise. "Alexander, you actually came!" She handed the small dog back to its owner and walked over to me. "I wasn't sure you were serious." "I keep my word," I said, looking around the clinic. It was clean but obviously well used, with educational posters about pet care covering the walls and the distinct smell of disinfectant mixed with, well, animals. "Dr. Martinez," Harper called to an older man in a white coat. "This is my friend Alexander, the one I told you about who's thinking about getting a pet." Friend. She had called me her friend and told her co-worker about me. Something warm spread through my chest. Dr. Martinez, a kind-faced man in his 60s, shook my hand firmly. "First pet?" he asked. "Would be, yes." "Well, you came to the right place. Harper here has a gift with animals. They trust her instinctively." He smiled at Harper with obvious affection. "She's going to make an excellent veterinarian." Harper blushed slightly. "Dr. Martinez is just being nice." "I'm being honest," he corrected. "Why don't you show Alexander around? I can handle things here for a bit." For the next hour, Harper gave me a tour that was part education, part animal therapy. She introduced me to the clinic's current residents, a 3-legged cat named Tripod, who purred like a motorcycle, a parrot that had learned to mimic car alarms, and a golden retriever puppy whose owner had abandoned him. "This is Sonny," Harper said, opening the kennel door. The puppy immediately bounded out, tail wagging with such enthusiasm his entire body wiggled. "He's about 4 months old. Someone left him tied to our door last week with a note saying they couldn't take care of him anymore." Sonny approached me cautiously, then sat down and looked up with eyes that seemed far too wise for a puppy. "He likes you," Harper observed. "Dogs are good judges of character. How can you tell he likes me? See how he's sitting calmly instead of jumping around? That means he feels safe with you. And look at his tail. It's wagging, but not frantically. That's doggy language for, 'I think you're okay, human.'" Without thinking, I knelt down and extended my hand. Sonny sniffed it carefully, then gently licked my fingers. "Oh my God," Harper said softly. "Alexander, he's never done that with a stranger before. Usually he's pretty shy with new people." I found myself petting Sonny's soft fur, and he leaned into my touch with a small, contented sigh. "What happens to him if nobody adopts him?" I asked. Harper's expression became more serious. "Doctor, Martinez would never put down a healthy animal, but space is limited. If we can't find him a home in the next few weeks, we'll have to transfer him to a larger shelter, and then—" She didn't finish the sentence. I looked down at Sonny, who had now decided my lap was the perfect place for a nap. "What would someone need to know about taking care of a puppy?" I heard myself asking. Harper's eyes widened. "Are you serious? You're actually considering it?" "I'm considering it," I admitted. "My house is certainly big enough, and you're right about it being empty." "Oh, Alexander, that would be amazing. But puppies are a lot of work. They need training, exercise, attention. It's not like having a houseplant. I have people who help me with things," I said carefully. "And I work from home sometimes." It wasn't exactly true. I had Margaret and a cleaning service, but nobody who knew anything about dogs. But looking at Sonny's trusting face, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the desire to take care of something other than business deals and profit margins. "If you're really serious," Harper said, sitting down on the floor next to us, "I could help you, teach you the basics, help with the transition. Sonny would need a gradual introduction to his new environment." "You would do that?" "Of course. I want what's best for him, and I can already tell you two have a connection." As if on cue, Sonny stretched and placed one tiny paw on my wrist, sighing contentedly. I said slowly, "I just adopted a dog." Harper's smile was brighter than the California sun streaming through the clinic windows. "Dr. Martinez," she called excitedly, "we have some good news." An hour later, I found myself walking out of Seaside Animal Care with a puppy carrier, a bag full of dog supplies, and Harper's phone number saved under Harper, Dog Expert, instead of Harper, Metro Girl. "Text me when you get home," she said, as I loaded everything into my Tesla. "Sonny's going to be confused at first, but he'll adjust. And remember, patience, consistency, and lots of positive reinforcement." "Are we still talking about the dog?" I asked, and immediately wondered where that comment had come from. Harper laughed, a sound that was becoming dangerously addictive. Maybe not entirely. As I drove home with Sonny sleeping peacefully in his carrier, I realized I had just made the most impulsive decision of my adult life. I had adopted a dog, made a new friend, and somehow managed to do both without anyone knowing I could buy the entire block that clinic sat on. For the first time in 25 years, I was excited about going home, not because it was safe and predictable, but because it was about to become something entirely new, just like my life. At 3:47 a.m., I learned the first harsh reality of dog ownership. Puppies don't understand the concept of sleeping through the night. Sonny's whimpering echoed through my mansion's marble halls like a tiny, furry alarm system. I stumbled out of bed, grabbed my robe, and made my way to the kitchen where I had set up his temporary sleeping area. "What's wrong, boy?" I whispered, kneeling beside his crate. He looked up at me with those impossibly sad puppy eyes, tail wagging tentatively. According to the stack of dog care books I had panic purchased on my way home, this was normal. Puppies missed their litter mates and needed time to adjust. I sat on my kitchen floor, my pristine, temperature-controlled kitchen floor that cost more per square foot than most people's cars, and talked to a dog at 4 in the morning. "I know how you feel," I found myself saying. "Big empty house, sleeping alone. Not exactly what you expected, right?" Sonny tilted his head, as if he actually understood. My phone buzzed. A text from Harper. Harper, I know it's late, but just checking. How's the first night going? Sonny keeping you up? Alexander, how did you know? Harper, experience. First night is always rough. Try putting something that smells like you in his crate. Old t-shirt works great. I looked down at my silk pajamas and Italian leather slippers. Something told me Sonny wouldn't find much comfort in designer sleepwear. Alexander, define old t-shirt. I might not have anything that qualifies. Harper, seriously? You don't have any worn-out clothes? What do you wear when you paint your house or do yard work? I stared at the text, realizing I had never painted anything in my life, and my yard work consisted of writing checks to a landscaping company. Alexander, I should probably mention that I'm not very hands-on with household maintenance. Harper, oh my God, you're one of those rich guys, aren't you? My heart stopped. She knew. Harper, I mean like upper-middle-class rich, not crazy rich, right? Please tell me you're not some secret millionaire who's been slumming it on public transportation. I stared at my phone for a long moment. Through the kitchen window, I could see my infinity pool, my guest house, and my 6-car garage. Secret millionaire was putting it mildly. Alexander, it's complicated. Harper, oh no. How complicated? Like I own multiple houses complicated, or I have my own helicopter complicated. The fact that I owned both multiple houses and a helicopter suddenly seemed like information I should keep to myself. Alexander, can we talk about this tomorrow? Sonny's having a crisis. Harper, nice deflection. But yes, puppy first. Try taking him outside. He might need to go potty. And Alexander, whatever your situation is, I'm glad you adopted Sonny. He's lucky to have you. 20 minutes later, I was standing in my backyard in silk pajamas and designer slippers, watching a 4-month-old golden retriever explore landscaping that cost more than most people's annual salary. This is insane, I muttered to myself. I'm a billionaire standing in my backyard at 4 a.m. talking to a dog. Rough, Sonny responded, as if he agreed that yes, this was indeed insane, but he approved. The next morning, Margaret found me asleep on the kitchen floor. Sonny curled up against my chest. Mr. Kane? She said carefully. Should I ask? I got a dog, I said, sitting up and immediately regretting it. Marble floors were not designed for human sleeping. Margaret stared at Sonny, who was now awake and wagging his tail at this new human. A dog, she repeated flatly. His name is Sonny. You, Alexander Kane, got a dog. Is there an echo in here? Margaret had worked for me for 15 years. She had seen me make billion-dollar decisions without blinking, negotiate international deals while eating breakfast, and maintain perfect composure during the 2008 financial crisis. But the sight of me adopting a puppy apparently broke her brain. Should I call someone? She asked. Your doctor? A therapist? I'm fine, Margaret. Just adapting to some changes in my routine. Changes, she muttered, walking away. 45 years old and he's having a midlife crisis with a golden retriever. By noon, I had already texted Harper 3 times with puppy-related emergencies. Alexander, he ate my shoe. Is that normal? Harper, which shoe? Alexander, Italian leather loafer, handmade. Harper, expensive lesson. Yes, it's normal. Hide anything you don't want destroyed. Puppies explore with their mouths. Alexander, he won't stop following me around. Harper, that's called bonding. It's good. He's choosing you as his pack leader. Alexander, he fell asleep in my home office during a conference call. The investors could hear him snoring through the microphone. Harper, that's adorable. Did they say anything? Alexander, Harrison Bradley asked if I was feeling all right. Harper, who's Harrison Bradley? Another moment where I had to remember to edit my life story. Alexander, just a business associate. Speaking of which, are you free this afternoon? I think Sonny and I need some professional guidance. Harper, I get off work at 6. Want to meet at the dog park in Santa Monica. It's good socialization for Sonny. A dog park. I had lived in Los Angeles for 25 years and had never set foot in a dog park. Alexander, perfect. Text me the address. That afternoon, I found myself at a place that was essentially a playground for dogs and their humans. Harper was already there, sitting on a bench and studying, when Sonny and I arrived. How's day 1 going? She asked, closing her textbook and smiling at us. Expensive, I said, sitting beside her. But educational. What did we learn? That puppies have no respect for Italian leather, that conference calls are more entertaining with snoring sound effects, and that my housekeeper thinks I'm having a midlife crisis. Harper laughed. Are you? Having a midlife crisis? I looked around the dog park. Families playing with their pets, couples walking their dogs together, children squealing with delight as puppies licked their faces. Normal people living normal lives. Maybe, I said honestly. Would that be a bad thing? Depends on the crisis, Harper said, watching Sunny cautiously approach a group of other puppies. Some midlife crises involve sports cars and 20-year-old girlfriends. Others involve adopting rescue dogs and learning to be a better person. 20-year-old girlfriends. The comment hit closer to home than she realized. What if someone your age was interested in someone significantly older? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. Hypothetically. Harper turned to look at me, her green eyes curious. How hypothetically are we talking? Just in general. Well, she said thoughtfully, I think age is just a number if both people are adults and equals. The problem usually isn't the age gap itself. It's when there's an imbalance of power or life experience that makes things unhealthy. What constitutes an imbalance? Oh, huge differences in wealth, status, life experience. Like if a billionaire CEO started dating a college student, that would be problematic because of the power dynamic, not necessarily the age. I felt my stomach drop. But two adults who meet as equals? Harper continued, oblivious to my internal panic. Who cares? My neighbor is 35 and her husband is 52. They met at a coffee shop, fell in love over crossword puzzles. Age never mattered because they came into the relationship as equals. Equals. Harper and I were many things, but equals wasn't one of them. Alexander? Harper was looking at me with concern. You okay? You look a little pale. Fine, I managed. Just thinking about what you said. About age gaps? Are you interested in someone younger? She asked with a teasing smile. Someone from the metro, perhaps? The way she said it, with hope in her voice, made my chest tighten. She was interested. The attraction wasn't one-sided. But she was interested in Alexander the businessman who takes public transportation, not Alexander Kane, billionaire CEO who could buy her entire university. It's complicated, I said again. You say that a lot, Harper observed. What makes it complicated? Before I could answer, Sunny bounded back to us, covered in dirt and panting happily. Looks like someone made friends, Harper said, and the moment passed. But as we walked around the park together, watching Sunny play with other dogs, I couldn't stop thinking about what she had said. Power dynamics, equality, the difference between meeting as equals and meeting as what we actually were. For the first time since I had met Harper, I wondered if the growing feelings between us were destined to be impossible. Not because of age, but because of truth. 3 weeks into dog ownership, I had learned several important life lessons. Puppies require more attention than hostile corporate takeovers. Puppy-proof was a myth, and I was falling in love with both my dog and the woman who had brought him into my life. Harper and I had settled into a comfortable routine. She would stop by twice a week to check on Sunny's progress. We'd take him to the dog park on weekends, and somehow these puppy training sessions had evolved into something that felt suspiciously like dating. Except it wasn't dating, because Harper thought I was Alexander the modest businessman, not Alexander Kane the billionaire. A distinction that was becoming increasingly problematic as my feelings deepened. Earth to Alexander, Harper said, waving her hand in front of my face. We were sitting on my living room floor while Sunny practiced basic commands. Where did you go just now? Sorry, just thinking about work. You do that a lot, she observed, adjusting her position on what was probably a $30,000 Persian rug. What's so stressful about software development? Everything, when you're lying about what you actually do for a living. Just some big decisions coming up, I said vaguely. Harper, can I ask you something? Shoot. If you found out someone you cared about had been not entirely honest about something important, how would you react? Harper's expression grew serious. What kind of not entirely honest? Like, I forgot to mention I'm allergic to cats? Or, I'm actually married with 3 kids in Nebraska? Somewhere in between. Alexander, she said slowly, are you married? No, God no, nothing like that. I ran my hands through my hair, frustrated with my inability to just tell her the truth. It's more about misrepresenting my situation. Your situation? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Rebecca's ringtone, the one I had assigned for emergencies only. I should take this, I said apologetically. Alexander Kane, I answered without thinking. Harper's head snapped up. Mr. Kane, Rebecca's voice was urgent. I'm sorry to bother you on a Sunday, but we have a problem. The TechFlow acquisition hit a snag, and Mr. Yamamoto is threatening to pull out unless you can meet with him personally tomorrow in Tokyo. Tokyo? I rubbed my forehead. How long would I need to be there? 3 days minimum. I've already had the jet prepared for departure at 6 a.m. if you approve. The jet, I repeated, acutely aware of Harper's stare burning into my skull. Yes, sir. Should I confirm with the pilot? I looked at Harper, whose expression had shifted from curiosity to confusion, to something that looked like dawning realization. Let me call you back in 5 minutes, I said, ending the call. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Sonny seemed to sense the tension, stopping his tail wagging and settling down between us like a furry Switzerland. Alexander Kane, Harper said quietly. Not Alexander Smith or Jones or Brown. Kane. Harper. Kane Industries, she continued, her voice getting smaller. Kane Technologies. Kane. She pulled out her phone and started typing. Oh my God. I watched as she found my Forbes profile, my Wikipedia page, probably my net worth estimate, and the photos of me at various charity galas and business events. $2.8 billion, she read aloud. CEO and founder of Kane Industries, one of the youngest billionaires in tech history. She looked up at me, her green eyes wide with shock. You're that Alexander Kane? Yes, the guy who owns half of Silicon Valley. That's an exaggeration, but yes. Harper stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. From there, she could see my infinity pool, my guest house, and the city of Los Angeles sprawling below us. This house, she said, her back to me. This isn't just a nice house. This is a mansion in Beverly Hills. Worth how much? Harper, please let me explain. How much, Alexander? 12 million, I said quietly. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. $12 million, and I've been sitting here teaching you how to train a dog, talking about my student loans and my 3-roommate apartment, while you're... She turned around, and I saw hurt in her eyes. While you're slumming it with the poor college girl. It's not like that. Isn't it? Harper crossed her arms. The subway story makes sense now. You were lost because you've never had to take public transportation in your life. The expensive suit, the confusion about small bills, the way you tip people $100 bills like it's pocket change. I wasn't slumming it, I said, standing up. Everything I felt, everything between us, that was real. Was it? Or was I just an amusing distraction? The billionaire and the vet student. What a cute story to tell at your country club. Harper, that's not fair, and you know it. Fair? Her voice rose. You want to talk about fair? I told you about power dynamics, about how relationships with huge imbalances don't work. And the whole time you knew exactly what I was talking about, because you are the problem I was describing. She was right, and we both knew it. I wanted to tell you, I said desperately. Every day I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid of exactly this reaction. So you decided to lie instead? I didn't lie. I just omitted some details. Some details? Harper grabbed her bag and headed for the door. Alexander, you omitted your entire life, your real life. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I've been treating you like an equal, like a friend, like someone I was... She stopped, shaking her head. Like someone you were what? I asked, though I dreaded the answer. Like someone I was falling for, she said quietly. God, I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. And what you were falling for, that person is real. I'm still me. Are you? Because the Alexander I know takes the metro and worries about dog training and asks for help with puppy problems. But the real Alexander Kane has people for that, doesn't he? Staff and assistants and probably a whole team of people whose job it is to handle inconvenient details like pet care. She was painting an accurate picture of my life, and I hated how cold it sounded. Harper, please don't leave like this. I need time to think, she said, pausing at the door. And you need to figure out who you actually want to be. The guy who lives in an ivory tower, or the guy who adopts rescue dogs and rides public transportation. Can't I be both? Not with me, she said softly. I can't be someone's charity case, Alexander. I can't be the poor girl you rescued from her ordinary life. I won't be. The door closed behind her with a quiet click that sounded like my heart breaking. I stood there for several minutes, staring at the door, hoping she would come back, hoping I could find the right words to fix this. Sonny whined softly and came over to lean against my legs as if offering comfort. I screwed up, boy, I said, sitting down on the floor and pulling him into my lap. I really screwed up. My phone buzzed. Rebecca, probably wondering about Tokyo, but for the first time in my career, business could wait. I had bigger problems than a failed acquisition or an angry investor. I had lost Harper, and suddenly, all the money in the world felt completely worthless. 2 weeks passed without a word from Harper. 14 days of checking my phone every 5 minutes, of driving past Seaside Animal Care hoping to catch a glimpse of her, of having one-sided conversations with Sonny about how badly I had messed up. Mr. Kane, Rebecca said during our Monday morning briefing, Mr. Yamamoto is still waiting for your response about the Tokyo meeting. The TechFlow acquisition is worth $400 million. We can't keep him waiting indefinitely. I looked out my office window at the city below. 2 weeks ago, $400 million would have been the most important thing in my world. Now it felt like monopoly money. Cancel it, I said. Rebecca blinked. Cancel the meeting? Cancel the entire acquisition. Send Yamamoto a formal apology and a gift basket. Something nice. Sir, this deal has been in the works for 8 months. The board can expect me to make decisions that align with my values, I interrupted. And right now, my values don't include flying to Tokyo for a deal I don't need when there are more important things to focus on here. After Rebecca left, looking like she was seriously considering calling a mental health professional, I made a decision that would have seemed impossible a month ago. I called my lawyer. Tom, I need you to set up a foundation. Something focused on animal welfare and veterinary education. Animal welfare? Tom Mitchell had been handling my legal affairs for 10 years. I had never shown interest in anything more charitable than the occasional tax-deductible donation. What's the scope we're talking about? Big. I want to fund scholarships for veterinary students, grants for animal clinics in underserved areas, and a no-kill shelter initiative. Start with $50 million and see how far that takes us. The silence on the other end was so long I thought the call had dropped. Tom, you there? $50 million, he repeated slowly. For animals. For people who help animals. There's a difference. Alexander, not that this isn't admirable, but this is quite a departure from your usual business focus. Is everything all right? Everything was definitely not all right, but maybe it could be. That afternoon I did something I hadn't done in 25 years. I took public transportation by choice, not because my car was broken or my driver was sick, but because I wanted to. The Metro Red Line was crowded with afternoon commuters, students, and tourists. I found a seat and watched the mix of humanity around me. People heading home from work, young couples sharing earbuds, elderly passengers reading newspapers in 3 different languages. This was Harper's world, the real world that I had been insulated from for decades. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown. Is this Alexander Kane? Alexander. Yes. Who is this? Unknown. This is Dr. Martinez from Seaside Animal Care. Harper gave me your number. We need to talk. My heart rate doubled. Alexander. Is Harper okay? Dr. Martinez. She's fine, physically, but she's been miserable for 2 weeks, and she finally told me why. Can you meet me at the clinic in an hour? Alexander. I'll be there. When I arrived at Seaside Animal Care, Dr. Martinez was waiting outside, his expression unreadable. Mr. Kane, he said, shaking my hand formally. Thank you for coming. How is she? Heartbroken, he said bluntly. She really cared about you, you know. The Alexander you pretended to be, anyway. The words stung because they were true. I didn't pretend to care about her, I said. That was real. Was it? Because Harper thinks you were just entertaining yourself with a poor college girl, playing at being normal. She's wrong. Dr. Martinez studied my face for a long moment. Prove it. How? Harper mentioned that you're worth billions. Is that true? I nodded. And she also mentioned that you seemed genuinely interested in helping animals. Was that true too, or just part of the act? It was true. Is true. Dr. Martinez opened the clinic door and gestured for me to follow him inside. Then I have a proposition for you. He led me to a back room I hadn't seen during my previous visits. It was cramped, with outdated equipment and walls that needed painting. This clinic serves one of the poorest neighborhoods in Los Angeles, Dr. Martinez explained. We see pets whose owners can barely afford food, let alone veterinary care. We do what we can, but we're limited by funding, space, and resources. What are you proposing? Harper has been talking for months about starting a mobile veterinary service, taking basic care directly to communities that can't afford regular vet visits. It's a good idea, but it would cost money we don't have. I could see where this was going. How much money? To do it right? Equipment, vehicle, supplies, staff. Probably $200,000 to start, maybe more. I almost smiled. $200,000 was what I spent on wine in a good year. And Harper would run this program? She'd be perfect for it. She has the skills, the passion, and the heart. But Mr. Kane, Dr. Martinez fixed me with a stern look. If you're thinking this is how you buy your way back into her good graces, you're wrong. Harper has too much integrity to be purchased. Then why are you telling me about it? Because she also has too much integrity to accept help from someone she thinks is just trying to ease his guilty conscience. But if someone funded this program anonymously, well, she couldn't refuse help for the animals, could she? I stared at him. You want me to anonymously fund Harper's dream project? I want you to prove that your feelings for her were real by doing something that benefits her without benefiting you. Something she'll never know you did. It was perfect and completely impossible. There's just one problem, I said. I don't want to do it anonymously. Dr. Martinez frowned. Mr. Kane, I want to do it as Alexander. Not Alexander Kane, the billionaire trying to buy forgiveness, but as the guy who adopted Sunny and learned to ride the metro and discovered that some things matter more than money. She won't accept it from you. Not after how things ended. Then I'll have to convince her that I've changed, that the person she was falling for wasn't an act. Dr. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. And how do you plan to do that? By being that person. Not just when it's convenient, but always. That's a big change for someone who's lived in luxury for 25 years. Yes, I agreed. It is. The next morning, I did something that made Rebecca question my sanity even more than the canceled acquisition. I sold my mansion. Not all of my properties. I wasn't completely insane. But the Beverly Hills mansion, with its 12 bedrooms and 6-car garage and infinity pool, went on the market with instructions to price it for a quick sale. I bought a house instead. A real house, in Santa Monica. 3 bedrooms and a yard big enough for Sunny. Walking distance to the beach and the dog park where Harper and I had spent so many afternoons. Mr. Kane, Margaret said when I broke the news, I've worked for you for 15 years. In that time, you've been the most rational, logical person I've ever known. But this month, you've adopted a dog, canceled a major acquisition, and now you're selling your home. Should I be concerned? Probably, I admitted. But Margaret, for the first time in 25 years, I'm making decisions based on what I want. Not what I think I should want. And what do you want? I looked at Sunny, who was chewing contentedly on a rope toy that cost $3 instead of destroying a $3,000 shoe. I want a life that matters to someone other than stockholders and business magazines. I want to wake up excited about the day instead of just getting through it. And I want Harper to see that the man she was falling for is real. Margaret smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen from her in years. Then I suppose we should start packing. 3 days later, I was sitting in my new living room, significantly smaller, but infinitely warmer than my old one, when my doorbell rang. Sunny barked and ran to the door, tail wagging. I opened it to find Harper standing on my porch, looking confused and beautiful and angry all at once. Nice neighborhood, she said. Very normal. Harper, how did you find me? Dr. Martinez told me someone had anonymously funded the mobile clinic program. Someone who insisted it not be anonymous and specifically requested that I oversee the project. She crossed her arms. Imagine my surprise when I learned it was you. Are you angry? I'm confused, she said. This morning I drove past your mansion to yell at you for trying to buy me off, and there was a sold sign on the lawn. I moved. I can see that. Why? I stepped aside to let her in. She hesitated, then entered, looking around at my new space. It was still nice. I wasn't going to live in squalor, but it was human-scaled. comfortable instead of impressive. I moved because the mansion wasn't a home, I said. It was a monument to everything I thought mattered, and I've realized that most of what I thought mattered doesn't. Harper sat down on my new couch, regular-sized, from a regular furniture store, and Sunny immediately jumped up to greet her like a long-lost friend. "Hi, baby," she said softly, scratching behind his ears. "I missed you too." "He's been moping for 2 weeks," I said. "We both have." "Alexander," Harper said, not looking at me. "I can't be bought. Not with mobile clinics or dog parks or any amount of money." "I know. And I can't date someone who sees me as a charity case or a project." "I know that too." "Then why did you fund the clinic?" I sat down beside her, careful to maintain distance. "Because it's a good program that will help animals and their owners. Because you're passionate about it and you'll do amazing work. And because—" I took a deep breath. "Because I love you." Harper's head snapped up. "I love you," I repeated. "Not because you're some fascinating glimpse into how normal people live. Not because you're different from the women I usually meet. I love you because you're kind and passionate and funny and smart. Because you see the best in everyone, including me. Because you made me want to be better than I was. Alexander, I'm not asking you to forgive me for lying. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove that the man you were falling for is real. Maybe he drives a Tesla instead of taking the metro, and maybe he can afford to fund animal clinics. But he's still the guy who sits on kitchen floors at 4 a.m. talking to a scared puppy." Harper was quiet for a long moment, absently petting Sunny. "You really sold your mansion?" "Last week. And canceled the Tokyo deal?" "It wasn't important." "Since when is $400 million not important to you?" "Since I realize that all the money in the world is worthless if you don't have someone to share your life with." Harper looked around my new living room again. "This place is nice. Very you, but accessible. I was hoping for homey. It's that too." She turned to face me fully. "Alexander, if we're going to try this, and I'm not saying we are, things have to be different." "Different how?" "Equal. We split dinner checks. We take turns planning dates. And you don't solve my problems with money unless I specifically ask for help." "Agreed. And no more lies. Even little ones. Even omissions." "Agreed. And you have to promise me that this isn't some phase. That you're not going to wake up in 6 months and decide you miss your old life." I reached for her hand, relieved when she didn't pull away. "Harper, I spent 25 years sleepwalking through a life that looked perfect from the outside, but felt empty every single day. These past few weeks with you, even the parts where you hated me, have been more real than anything I've experienced since I was 20 years old." "What happened when you were 20? I squeezed her hand gently. "I'll tell you everything. But the short version is that I lost someone I loved, and I spent the next 25 years building walls to make sure it never happened again. And now? Now I'd rather risk getting hurt than guarantee being alone." Harper was quiet for another long moment. Then, to my amazement, she smiled. "Well," she said, "I suppose Sunny needs both his humans to be happy." "Both his humans? Don't think this gets you off the hook for proper courtship, Alexander Kane. I still expect to be wooed." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. "I can work with that. Dinner tonight? Somewhere that splits checks? I'd like that. But first—" She leaned over and kissed me, soft and sweet and full of possibility. When we broke apart, Sunny barked approvingly. "I think he likes us together," Harper said. "Smart dog," I replied, pulling her closer. "Takes after his humans." As the sun set over Santa Monica, I realized that for the first time in 25 years, I was exactly where I belonged. Not in a mansion or a boardroom or a private jet, but in a normal house with the woman I loved and the dog who had brought us together. Sometimes the best things in life really are free. But sometimes, when you're lucky enough to have both love and the means to help others, you get to discover that the most expensive thing you can buy is the chance to make a difference in the world. And that's worth more than all the money in the world. The end.